We shouldn't be intimidated. Sinning is not new. It's been around for a while. I think we should have a better handle on it by now. We've been practicing for 5,000 years. Your son comes home and says, I have a girlfriend. What do you do? High five?
That's easier than your daughter comes home and says, I have a boyfriend. Yeah.
I didn't even want to use that as an example. It's too painful to... Yeah. So what do you do? What do you do? The way you're going to react is going to make or break. Right? The way you do it is, really? She a nice girl? Tell me about her. What do you like about her? Let me see your taste in women. You become his best friend. I don't mean that in... So I was Verbringing in Williamsburg. And afterwards, a couple of guys were sitting around, and one of them says in Yiddish, what should I have done? I came home and found my 15-year-old on the computer watching pornography. He says, how should I have handled it? I said, how did you handle it? He says, you don't want to know. He realized he blew it. He says, how should I have handled it? So, and this whole conversation is in Yiddish, which is kind of funny. How do you say pornography in Yiddish? So I said, what you should have done, walk up behind him and look at the screen and say to him, what are you watching here? People without pants? And walk away. You see the reasoning here? First of all, don't frighten him into doing it again. So if you faint, if you freak out, he's going to do it again. Because you just made it so exciting. Number two, you're the adult. You're the Rock of Gibraltar now. Can he rely on you? Well, not if you freak out. But more than all of that, if you react violently, he doesn't know. He doesn't know what you're so upset about. And so it becomes like a ghost, like a mystery. There's something about this that is so... Break it down. Break it down. What are you watching? People without pants. Okay. And then 3 days later, call him aside and say, no, so how many people without pants do you need to see? Enough? Got it? You saw already? It's so...
Doesn't that make them feel like it's okay? It's not a big deal? So just...
It's not a big deal. It's just foolish.
Rabbi, forgive me. You're not leaving any room for shock factor.
Shock factor?
Yes. I think everybody in this room, if they fell in that situation, would definitely be in shock for a second.
I know, because we're intimidated. We can't handle it. So you expect him to handle it? We shouldn't be intimidated. Sinning is not new. It's been around for a while. I think we should have a better handle on it by now. We've been practicing for 5,000 years.
You don't want to make like it's nothing, like it's okay.
You want to make it like it's ridiculous. What are you doing? You break it down. Like, you want to see people without their pants? Well, first of all, who stands in front of a camera without pants? Those are the people you want to look at. Break it down to, what are you doing? What? What do you want? Then you say, so should we get rid of the computer? But you're being the father.
You remind me when my son was playing video games all the time, and I didn't like it. So I told him, "You're awesome, you're great." He said, "Why?" "You can hit the button 1,000 times a minute. It's really good." And he weaned off of it himself.
You have to assume that your son is normal, even if he's watching pornography. So if he's normal, talk to him like a normal human being. And there's a comedian, who was it, who says, when I get into a cab in New York and the guy's going 50 miles an hour on a one-way street in a 25-mile zone, I lean over to him and I say, what's going on in your life that makes you behave like this? By the way, you know that watching pornography makes you impotent? You know this? It's a fact. Men who watch pornography become impotent. You understand why?
Idealize a certain. It's desensitized. Yeah.
Only men. Watching pornography makes you the makabel. A man gets used to being a makabel, he can't function as a mashpia. It's that real, it's that serious. A mashpia means the pleasure of giving. You're not giving when you're watching pornography, you're receiving. You're saying, stimulate me. It kills your libido. That's why everybody's on Viagra, because everybody's on pornography. Why do we call it raising children? Well, that's a strange expression. You raise crops. How do you raise children? You plant them and they grow. Raising children literally means every child is born with a capacity for pleasure. But in infancy, the only outlet or the only pleasure that they're familiar with is touch and taste. First touch, and then taste. A baby needs to be held. A baby needs to be touched. Then a little later, taste. All pleasure comes from taste for toddlers. Everything goes into the mouth. You want to know what a building block is? Put it in your mouth, you'll find out. So the only pleasure that a baby has is from the senses of touch and taste. Raising a child means introduce a better pleasure. Move the child up the ladder of pleasure. What is the next step for a child? Music, rhythm, song. That's why we sing to children. And especially at the table where they're enjoying taste and touch. So you say, I don't want you to grow up to be an animal and a chazer, so let's sing a little bit. It's even more pleasurable than eating. If you succeed in that, then the next step is introduce the pleasure of good character, of a smart kid, a brave kid, a kind kid. How do we do that? Stories. We read. What is the pleasure? Why do kids love when you read to them or read themselves? What do they want to hear? Something heroic, something beautiful, something noble, something. And the pleasure of a good story is greater and more intense than the pleasure of eating. But you got to move them. What comes after good character? Intelligence. The pleasure that a kid has when he figures out a puzzle or a riddle and he knows the answer to a question, they could light up the night with their pleasure. It's a greater pleasure than all the previous ones. So you're going up the ladder, not only that the quality of the pleasure is more noble, more refined, more edel, but even the intensity of the pleasure is greater. And then the final step is the pleasure of serving. Pleasure of godliness. That's called raising children. Raising children doesn't mean policing them. It doesn't mean catching them when they're misbehaving and scaring the life out of them. That's not raising. Raising children means wherever their pleasure is, move them up to a little bit higher. We have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal, it's questions and answers, it's conversation. It's really relaxed, it's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program, there's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it just conversation, casual, laid back, unscripted. So join us, take a look, click the link below and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.